Hi, I'm Doug Cockle. You might know me better as Geralt of Rivia from the Witcher video game series, and I'm here at EGX, getting my EGX on!
Perfect. So, obviously you're here for the Natural Six panel, so tell me about it.
So, I'm here for the Natural Six panel, and Natural Six is a group of voice actors and industry professionals who've gotten together, who just wanted to get together and play Dungeons and Dragons. And then in our first meeting, we kind of discovered that we all quite like the idea of streaming our games, and now we've become Natural Six, and we're launching a Kickstarter very soon, and we're just very excited. This will be our very first live audience play, and we're all really excited. Some of us didn't sleep, I think.
Have you played D&D like before this?
I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
Terribly. I never followed the rules. So I'm going to have to rein myself in and actually learn the 5e rules a bit better this time around, I think. But I started playing when I was 10 years old maybe, so 1980. And I think I have this memory of picking up one of the very first Dungeons and Dragons booklets, the little brown ones that were like A3 size? No,
like
other way,
A5.
A5 size. Yeah, with a really cheap red dice and all that stuff. So I think I had one of those at one point.
It's come a long way since then.
Come a very long way.
Now it's like fancy dice and dice trays.
I've got some. Yeah, I've been buying it all. I've been really enjoying getting my D&D fix.
So, doing Natural Six, did it feel like natural, but it sounds terrible, natural to step back into that and kind of, is it fun to like pick it up, something you've been doing since you were a child?
Yeah, and it's not like I've been playing every day since I was a kid or anything like that, but long periods of time when I didn't play at all, but I've always loved it. And I seem to have always had a monster manual on my bookshelf somewhere. So it's every time I come back to Dungeons and Dragons, it does feel like coming back to a kind of a home. I love it. I've always loved it. I love the fantasy. I love the adventure of it. I love the mystery of it. And when I was a child, I guess as a child, when I was 11, 12, 13, I used to GM for my friends, and I was a terrible GM. I would set up traps and things that they couldn't solve. I didn't even know how to solve them. I was waiting for them to come up with some cool way to solve it, but I just made it up as I went along, and I always felt bad about it. But now I think 5e gives you some room to do a little bit of that. So
yeah, definitely. We've got a group at work, and our editor-in-chief is our DM. And she does create some sneaky traps and tricks that we cannot figure out.
Yeah, and then you just start bashing it.
But it makes it fun, right? That's part of the,
Absolutely. I think Harry's going to be, not upset, but I think he's going to be holding his head in his hands at points, because when I play video games, I'm a button smasher. There's no strategy with me. I just go mash, 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 and I'm a bit like that with Dungeons and Dragons. So. But the character I'm playing, I can't be like that, so I'm going to have to up my game.
You have to do your homework.
That's right.
Obviously, I need to speak to you about Baldur's Gate 3, because everyone's talking about Baldur's Gate 3. Everyone's going, so mad for like the romances and everything. Do you feel a bit left out? Your character isn't part of the romance.
I'm Ball, man.
I know. But someone might have like a dark urge kink, and I don't know.
No, there's a kink I can get on with, I guess. Yeah, no, I don't feel left out. It's I was late to the game with Baldur's Gate 3. I'm really glad I'm in it. I'm so pleased to be in it. I didn't even know it was recording, and then just through a conversation with someone who shall remain nameless, I discovered that it was recording. I just said, "Oh man, I'd love to be in it." I didn't ask for anything, but I just got a phone call a couple of days later. "Hey Doug, would you mind if I gave your details to so and so at Larian, and then maybe something can happen?" And then they called me up and said, "Well, we've got this role. We'd really like you to think about. Here's some lines. Can you, send these back to us with your thoughts on it?" So I did, and then they cast me as Ball, and I was really excited. I was thrilled. And so it's a small but really important character in the game, and I'm just so excited to be part of Baldur's Gate 3. I could just about eat my head. Is that a thing? Can you eat your own head?
Maybe. It's interesting because obviously Ball comes in quite late in the game. So
and only if you play a certain way as well.
Yeah. So is it interesting to see like fans like discovering that character? Because Baldur's Gate 3 it exploded at launch, but everyone, you tracked how fans were progressing through the game and what everyone was posting about. So was it interesting to get like a couple of weeks down the line, people were posting about Bal? Did you enjoy that, seeing like the fans discover you?
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I did put a few posts out on social media saying, hey, this is who I play. But just about the same time that I did that, people started messaging me, DMing me, hey, is this you in Baldur's Gate 3? Yep, it's me.
You must get that a lot, because people must like hear your voice and just be like, oh my god, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really fun when that happens, actually, because sometimes it sounds very much like me, and sometimes I think that it doesn't. But then clearly, our voices are very unique to ourselves. So people who are into voices in games, and for them, that's one of the things that they really grab onto as part of their gameplay experience. They know voices. So yeah, I've been caught out a few times. It's nice catching out. It's a really, really good one.
Yeah, I imagine it feels nice to have people recognise you for that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't talk about your voice work without talking about Geralt of Rivia.
Yeah.
So I think someone asked you, and the last we heard, CD Projekt Red hadn't spoken to you yet about remake. Any news on that?
Nope.
Oh.
No, I still know nothing. I know.
Keep our fingers crossed.
I just keep, exactly. I keep crossing my fingers, hoping that, those who are doing the making remember me.
Yeah. And then I believe the idea is for The Witcher 4, it's going to kind of pivot more towards Ciri. So how does it feel to have that kind of...
Is that a thing? Do you know this? You're a journalist. You probably know more than I do.
I think it's been teased. I don't think it's set in stone. So don't panic, because I could be wrong. But let's say hypothetically, if she kind of takes centre stage, how would it feel to pass the torch?
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no idea who is going to play Ciri, just like I have no idea if I'll be back or not as Geralt. But, if Joe comes back, Joe Wyatt voiced Ciri in Witcher 3, if she comes back for a Witcher 4 that's based around Ciri, all I can say is go Joe. She's fantastic, so I wish her all the best.
And then, speaking of The Witcher, I'm sure you've been asked this loads, Yennefer or Triss?
I know, it's the question, isn't it? You have to ask.
Yeah.
Okay. So, here's the thing with me. That's the thing. I gravitate towards Triss, and the reason is really petty and shallow. She has red hair. That's one of the reasons. I love Yennefer. I think Yennefer's amazing. But the relationship dynamic that Geralt and Yennefer have is one thing, and the relationship dynamic that Geralt and Triss have, this is in the games, is another thing. And I just prefer the relationship dynamic that Geralt and Triss have in the games. If you read the books, though, it's a different thing. There's a whole different relationship with Yen that is similar in the games, but it's reflected slightly differently. And because you have the choice, you don't have the choice in the books. Then there's a choice to be made. So I tend to gravitate towards, if I personally were Geralt, who would I gravitate to? And it's Triss.
And randomly, if Bal was playing with The Witcher, who do you think he would gravitate towards?
Yen.
Good choice.
Triss is too nice.
Yeah.
That's what I like about Triss, But Yen's got that dark spirit, She's not evil in any way, shape, or form. She's just Yen. But yeah, I think if Bal were to romance one of those two wonderful women, it would be Yen.
And then, obviously, you mentioned the books and talking about other media. We this year had obviously the new season of The Witcher on Netflix. Have you been watching that? And is it weird seeing someone else play a character that's close to you?
It was, yes. And when Henry was first announced, I didn't have doubts. That's not the word I'm looking for. It was just okay, interesting. Let's see what he does. Because I didn't know why he'd been cast. I didn't know the history of his his auditions or relationship with the casting directors or the showrunner or anything. So it was just an interesting choice. Wow, that's an interesting choice. Let's see what happens. And then he did his thing, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved his portrayal of Geralt. So Yeah, it was a joy to watch.
I really loved his portrayal as well. I think it helped that he was obviously a huge fan himself.
Yeah.
And you could see that like in his performance.
Well, this is the thing, is that it didn't, once I knew more about him and his love of the game and the love of the books, and I was just, well, he's just another geeky fan like me. So, then it was just watching another, it's like watching another person play football, I guess in a weird sort of way. It's like, wow, let's see what skills you bring to this game. So that's kind of what it was. Much smaller player pool, though.
What do you think about the new casting decision?
Same thing, actually.
We're not going to know until we see it, really.
We won't know until we see it, and I wish Liam all the best, and I look forward to seeing what he brings to the table, and it will be different, and it will be the same, because Geralt is Geralt, but he'll bring his own flavor to it, and, more power to him.
Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you is, have you read any of the Witcher Ronin stuff? The graphic novel?
No, I haven't read it. I have seen it. I have appreciated the artwork. I have not read it, so I can't really comment on the actual storyline, but it looks amazing.
I was going to ask, like, if they were to do like a Ronin game, is that something that you would be interested in coming back as Geralt for? Because
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Geralt with the samurai sword.
If I
Yeah.
snuck it in an interview and someone at CD Projekt Red saw it, they might go, "Oh, let's make a game."
They might somewhere down the line. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, anything's possible.
Anything is possible. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you is, obviously, with Baldur's Gate 3 and The Witcher, what do you think a kind of mashup of the two would work? Like a Witcher game that takes traits of Baldur's Gate 3 and it has more of that tabletop element. Like, I don't know. I find that idea fascinating.
Wow. Well, it's interesting how it all kind of blends together, anyways, because Dungeons and Dragons was so influenced by Tolkien and his worlds, and I don't know how much Sapkowski was influenced by Tolkien, but I imagine he was in some way, shape, or form. But then, he's coming from the whole Eastern European mythology and everything, so it's a whole different thing. And Baldur's Gate 3 being essentially in the D&D world, it would be really interesting to mash up those two worlds. I mean, the monsters, just for a start, the monsters in The Witcher are incredible. And when I first started doing The Witcher, that was one of the things that I found most interesting, was actually, because all the other characters, they're very much of, archetypes. And that's what we gravitate to in stories. We love our archetypes. And so, although they're different, Geralt is a different kind of hero, he's still the kind of anti-hero, the reluctant anti-hero character. And we see a lot of that. You see that in movie after movie after movie, and book after book after book as well. So the nature of the character itself was different, but who he is and his relationships with other people and his history and the world that he lives in is completely different. And so to mash up those two worlds, in my head, I'm mashing up Tolkien really, and then Dungeons and Dragons, and then I'm mashing it all up.
You're just making it sound better.
It sounds amazing, doesn't it? Yeah, if you could play well, I mean, it doesn't matter because they're all the same. We have dwarves in all of them, we have elves in all of them, but they're all a little bit different. I actually the mashup would be cool, but only if you could keep that kind of individual flavor from each one.
Yeah.
Because the elves in the Witcher world are so different from the elves in the D&D world, which are different from the elves in the Tolkien world. They're all very similar. They've all got that similar kind of feeling about them, but they are subtly different, and that's to be celebrated, really.